One.
All right. Welcome to our conversation about everything I ever needed to learn about work. I learned from rock and roll and jazz. My name is Shane McLaughlin. I'm a company storyteller, a brand journalist, and a band leader who has had the good fortune to play music and tell stories at a lot of companies. That's what we're talking about today, though, is music and its power, its value to collaborate, to drive collaboration and innovation in the way we work and interact. And about a couple of weeks back, I saw Phil Gershon online on LinkedIn talking about music and the value of music as background energy driving sort of background support. And I thought, what a great topic to speak about. And I thought we could also do something around the value of live music in the workplace and how live music and collaborating with others and interacting and innovating and coming up with creative new ways to play music can lead to creative new ways to interact and create better results for companies. So I'll turn it over to Phil to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm an author. I wrote a book called Unforgettable, The Art and Science of Creating Memorable Experiences. I am a speaker. I've been an event leader, planner, and strategist for decades. And I also play saxophone. And I think when you saw me, I was playing saxophone on a LinkedIn Live with a guy named DJ Carbon. And so it was fun. Now, I want to say one thing about this conversation today, because we saw comments earlier this week about the fact that we're talking about this. And someone said, well, make sure you don't force everyone to play music at work. And that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about what radio station or what playlist you should have on or what's the right style to have in the workplace. You can do that. And there's obviously a place for that conversation. That's not why we're here today. We're here today to talk about what music can do in unlocking collaboration and allowing us to have greater creativity and thinking about culture. And so I'm super excited to have this conversation. And we've got some friends here, Lindsay and Michael, who we're going to introduce in just a few minutes, but I want to acknowledge that they are here all the way from Ireland. It's 10:30 at night where they are. So they've already raised more than one glass of whiskey, but we're going to go ahead and just because it is happy hour, we'll raise a quick glass to them and say thank you for being here. And thank you for those of you who are watching us live and those of you who watch the recording later. We appreciate having you join us.
It's great to have you, Lindsay and Michael. And I'm going to start with a quick story about my own sort of eye-opening experience with music in the workplace. And one of the first companies I worked for out of college was an offices services company in the center of Boston, right downtown near the courthouse, Boston, Massachusetts. And I was a sales associate running big boxes of documents around the city on foot that attorneys would take these documents and review as part of discovery and lawsuits and corporate things. The center of this whole business was this big room with like 50 copy machines in it. 50 copy machines. Every machine had someone standing there doing this pretty tedious work all day, making copies, like real harsh lighting, tile floor. It was kind of a depressing scene. So a couple of weeks go by while I'm working at this job and I'm dropping in and out, grabbing documents and shuttling them around the city. And someone managing the floor figured out there was a stereo system on the floor and they put a tape. And this is ancient history. I'm showing my age, but it was a tape that played over and over again, like 15 songs. And I know you're going to get excited about this, Phil, because every song on the tape was all disco. And let me tell you, whenever I hear this lick, you know what that lick is? That's Do the Hustle. Do the Hustle. And you don't hear that song a lot because it's not a really good song, honestly. But every time I hear that song, I'm instantly transported back to that room full of copiers in Boston. And something amazing happened when that disco tape got going. The room came to life and people started sort of bopping and dancing at their copiers and they were interacting and they were having fun. And I can guarantee you they were more productive because they've done studies that show like music elevates your mood. That's what we're talking about today is that value of music in the workplace, because listening to music releases dopamine, and that's a chemical in our brains which elevates our mood, helps us feel good. But even more so, playing music together releases oxytocin, which is the hormone considered essential for forming social bonds, which is an important part of collaboration and connection at work, is like getting to know your coworkers, getting along, negotiating, managing through conflict and that kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about, playing music at work and singing at work. That's why Lindsay and Michael are here. And Phil also wrote an article about singing at work. And so you know something more about that. And this is really intriguing for me because I'm a full advocate for more singing at work.
Absolutely. So back in 2020, I was doing a 90-day challenge on gratitude. And one of the things that I wanted to write about was singing. And this began as a joke. Growing up at my house, there was a rule that you were not allowed to sing at the table when we were having a meal. And so I put a post out there and asked, is that a common experience, or does everyone experience it that way, or is it just my family? And it turned out, it was a mix. Some families allow it, other families didn't. Like my wife, she's a vocalist like Lindsay and Michael are, and her parents didn't like it because it made them uncomfortable. And so some people it was appropriate, other people it wasn't. So then I thought, well, I wonder about the workplace. Do people sing at work? Is that okay? There's certain jobs where you hum and you whistle and you sing, like, labor work. But I was thinking white collar jobs, when we're in the workplace, do people do that? So I thought, well, I'm going to write an article about this and I'm going to do some research. And like you were just saying, Shane, I found some of the same things. It lowers your stress. It reduces anxiety. It elevates the endorphins. And then it also can increase your immune response. And I know this is all stuff that Lindsay could talk about for hours. It improves your sleep. It increases your pain tolerance. It helps you feel more connected. And so this article is talking about all this stuff, and it helps you release your best ideas. And then I was thinking about, well, why do we always get our best ideas when we're in the shower and we're singing? And you can form bands and all these things that you can do. And then guess what? I wrote this article and it was crickets, literally crickets, until 3 months later, I see this company called Sing at Work respond to this article. And I'm like, what is Sing at Work? And I went and looked it up. And there's this lady named Lindsay behind it. And we started having this LinkedIn conversation about the importance of singing at work, because that was the name of her company. Now she's calling it Ella Voice. But that started a relationship where she said, oh, Phil, the research is incredible. And there's all these companies, Google and all these major companies that are promoting singing in choirs and having private voice lessons that can do all these things. And I said, well, I need to have you come and on this conversation, Lindsay, and share some of what you know about what you've seen happen. I'd love you to tell some stories about what you've seen, or maybe a story or two of what's happened. But this is a big deal, in my opinion. I see its importance at conferences. That's my kind of the banner that I wave. But I think Shane and I both know this can make a big difference in the workplace. So I'll let you guys talk for a few minutes, Lindsay and Michael, about some of the things that you've seen.
Well, I want to start by saying that our first conversation, Phil, when we talked online, was when you told me how you used to, get a block when you were in work, and that you would leave the desk and you would take the saxophone and you would play, and then you would literally get back and you would have the solution to your problem just by taking that break. And that was really the first time we ever talked about there you go. There it is in one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes it's piano, sometimes it's saxophone, sometimes it's guitar, especially like when you're feeling like, oh, I think I may just have to go take a nap, or I'm not sure I can solve this. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, wow, music does that. So yeah, keep going.
It's powerful. And I think I mentioned Einstein. I did say this on the LinkedIn post I made. So Einstein's wife did say that when he came up in a particular block, he would walk away and go to the piano or the violin, and he would reset his mind, is what he would used to say. I mean, that's powerful. He's a powerful guy. I mean, he made some changes. And he's the music sort of relevance to his, what he did is really powerful, I think.
I think so. But I mean, for me, it was a very personal experience the first time that I came across the power of music at work, or singing at work, or an active and authentic musical experience. So when I was a student, I worked in a timber yard, and somebody heard that I was a singer. So I was wheeled up from the timber yard into the office, and that was quite an experience, really, because, those of us who were in the timber yard never got to go into the office. We wore the wrong clothes to begin with. And so I was wheeled up to sing a song. And all of a sudden, all of these people were involved. They're like, wow, who's this guy? you know, and I sang a song. And funnily enough, I met one of the directors of that company 25 years later on Tuesday, just gone. And he was like, wow, you're the guy who used to come into the office and sing. I was like, yeah, well, I used to work for you too. How did you miss it that I worked for you, you know? But the thing was, though, he remembered that I did this musical thing. And it was an incredible leveler because it changed everything from, I was a timber yard hand where, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, really wasn't particularly consequential. And I was there for a couple of months and I was going to go on ahead and go to university. But 25 years later, the director of this company remembered who I was because he remembered that I sang, and I sang in the office, and it became a thing that I sang in the office. And then, of course, other people kind of joined in because it's an Irish thing, right? So, I mean, it's interesting that you say you don't sing at the table. I mean, I didn't grow up in a family where we sang at the table, but we sang all the time. We just didn't sing at the table. And so we brought this noise into an office where all of a sudden everybody who was very, I guess, very straight about everything, and everything was very pigeonholed, and you couldn't show who you were, because in the corporate world, I think it's very easy for us to get sort of boxed in, and we don't take the talent out of the box. And so people don't get to see the talent out of the box. And in a way, people don't get to see the human element. And music is something that allows us to do that.
Yeah.
And for me, in this particular instance, I had a voice and I was heard, even though I had no business being heard in this environment. And 25 years later, somebody remembered it. And so the power of that is extraordinary. And the power to build relationships, and from those relationships to build community, and to break down the barriers that exist in a corporate structure is phenomenal. And I think it's a power that we need to harness more than we're doing at the moment, I think.
Amen. I love that so much, because something about music is immediate and emotional and a way to connect.
Yeah.
And work is so much about, hey, deadlines, efficiencies, improve the customer experience. We're thinking about the future, and there's a place for that. But when you can experience, and
also, we've got to stay within our own lanes, right? We've got to do whatever it is that you're prescribed to do. And this thing that we have, this thing that all four of us here in this room at the moment are passionate about, allows us to break out of those lanes. It allows for us to say, okay, fine, hold up. Whatever we've got that we're supposed to do, we've also got this other stuff. And if we allowed all of that to pour into the one pot.
How amazing would that be?
How interesting could that become?
Yeah. So true.
Well, when you think about how we work in teams, right? Teams require people to be themselves, but come together. And that's exactly what we do in music. You know, Shane, when you put a combo together, Lindsay and Michael, when you're singing part of a larger ensemble, when I'm playing jazz, if the whole thing's about me, it's a train wreck. I have to listen to the bass and the keyboard and the drums, and we have to all be in sync. And that's the same thing at work. And my brother is an executive in a pharmaceutical company, but they have a band of people throughout the company, and they're different levels. They're not all the same seniority, but whenever they're doing a corporate event, these guys come together and they form a band, and it creates relationships.
Like that is they're taking their in-house talent and allowing that to shine and to show and to give this whole other side to people. That
it's empowering people.
Absolutely.
It's empowering people through music.
Yeah. I've seen you do something, Lindsay, where you also take people who maybe are feeling shy about what their own metaphorical voice is. And so by learning to sing, they're learning to connect with who they are and be more confident in showing up as who they are. Can you elaborate on that?
So I've always said to you, when I started this and I spoke to people, I was so shocked at how the voice, the function of the voice and the potential of what you can do with it is not something that is looked at within business. You know, I just found that incredible. And there's such a color palette there. And I mean, I spoke about this before, you have the potential to influence your colleagues' nervous system with the sound of your voice. When you sell something, when you try and give a message to people, there's so much untapped color and function in there. And then, as I always spoke to Phil about, there is this connection to self through voice, which is we have this voice, we have this power, but we don't use it. And I don't know whether it's we feel that only the talented should do it, that we feel that only people who are musical should do it. And that's not the case. You have a voice. If you think about armies, if you think about workers, if you think about so many groups of people that sing, that hum, you hum to regulate yourself. You probably don't even realize that you hum all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a self-soothing tool. It's a self-regulation tool. It's a connective tool to who you are. And how I prove that is by saying that when you make a mistake on the piano or the saxophone, I bet you don't beat yourself up over it and completely have a meltdown. But when you make a mistake when you sing, it's devastating. So that just shows itself how powerful your voice is, no matter who you are, whether you're musical or not.
But I think you're also talking about that authentic connection and what it is to really engage with what your voice is. And if we come back to the notion of, you've got to stay in your lane, you've got to be whatever it is that's prescribed for you. Mm-hmm. And then if we offer some kind of situation where actually let's hook into that power that is who you are. And it takes a lot of work, I think, to get to what your authentic voice is. And when you truly connect to that power and you're in that place that you've got a voice that you're speaking with that is true and honest for you, and it's on your own message, wow, you can take over the world.
Yeah, there's this whole trend and saying now about bringing the whole self to work. And it's hard because work is still very much hybrid. People are coming in, not for every day, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, maybe sometimes longer, but showing up in the workplace, it makes people put their guard up a little bit because, well, I see you on Zoom, and on Zoom I can take my camera off and but I think a lot of companies now are understanding that, hey, bringing your whole self to work and being that authentic person. And if you're confident and you're okay. And I think most people, when they sing or they're musical, are nervous. Like, what if I'm bad? What if I'm not good? But if you have great relationships, if you have trust in your coworkers, it breaks down the barriers. You don't have to be Pavarotti by any stretch. Lord knows I'm not. But the whole idea is that it helps to open up barriers, create relationships, and otherwise make people feel more comfortable because we're still in this place.
That's really interesting because you're talking about bringing that vulnerability and that humanity into it as well.
Exactly.
In a work environment or in a co-worker space, we don't necessarily look at Shane or Phil or Lindsay or Michael as being this human entity. They're our co-worker, and so they do this stuff and I do this stuff.
And they don't see that side.
We're not giving that space, and I think in the hybrid working environment, that's an even bigger problem because we're not having time to have that conversation at the coffee machine or the water fountain. Exactly. That used to be sort of a stable part of the working environment, and it's not necessarily a stable part of it anymore.
But this is why live music events within your company. So if you have tiny desk concerts, which we run, or live lounge gigs, which are evening time concerts, you can connect with those who are remotely at home, in the office. And there is that lovely way to connect through music. So it's really important.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that one place, at least in America, in my experience, and Shane, yours might be different, that we will bring music into the workplace is whether it's once a month, once a year, we have birthday celebrations, and we'll gather around, we'll have cake, and everyone will poorly sing happy birthday, right? And well, one time, this is 30 years ago, I brought my saxophone to work because someone asked me to, because they knew that I played at church. And so they asked me, hey, would you play happy birthday for so-and-so's birthday and do something special for them? And I actually ended up writing like some lyrics to a sarcastic parody song, and then played happy birthday. And afterwards, I remember this to this day, and it's probably been it's been about 30 years ago. This guy says, Phil, if it doesn't work out for you here, you could make it as a sax player.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's great.
And I got emotional. I'm still emotional about it now because he saw something in me and gave me permission to step into that. And I think there's a lot of, it's not that most people need to step into being professional musicians, but I think it's one of those ways that it's okay for someone to be a little bit vulnerable. Like we've got to give permission for that. And we see someone can step into it more. And music is a little bit easier to say that about than someone who steps up and like puts themselves out there as a speaker if they've never spoken before or something else. I don't know. It was a powerful experience for me.
That's
well said.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Lindsay and Michael, are you going to sing?
We'd love for you to sing something, Michael.
Yes.
I unfortunately am not, but Michael has very kindly said he would give you a little Irish ditty, I'm going to call it.
Apparently we're being very Irish because it's late at night and we may have had a jar or two, so we're inviting you into an Irish session.
That's what it's like here.
Nice.
And so it's a song about a party and a lady who throws a party that doesn't necessarily go the way that it's supposed to. So the lady is Mrs. Gilhooly. And it is Mrs. Gilhooly. She gave a great party and she invited us all to attend. So we gathered a gang and went down to the house, a few pleasant hours to spend. There was Lindsay and Phil and Shane and myself, a jollier crowd hard to find. But the thing most important we almost forgot, we near left the owl piper behind. We invited him down to the party and he brought his bagpipe just by chance. We asked him to sing and he said, no, but I'll play you a bit of a dance. So he picked up his pipe and he started to play till someone got fooling about. And they cut a big hole in the bag of his pipe and this was the tune that came out. Rum a deedle idle da, skiddle diddle idle da, skiddle idle da, deedle diddle da, skiddle idle da, deedle diddle da, skiddle diddle idle day. When the piper found out that his bag was cut, he gave a great leap on the floor. His kit got working in jackhammer style, and he landed them under the jaw. Mrs. Gilhooly, she fainted, while the rest of us ran for the door. But the piper had 9 of them out for the count, and he swore he would kill 20 more. We invited him down to the party, and he brought his bagpipe just by chance. We asked him to sing, but he said, no, but I'll play you a bit of a dance. So he picked up his pipe, and he started to play, so someone got fooling about. And they cut a big hole in the bag of his pipe, and this was the tune that came out. Rum a deedle idle da, skiddle idle idle da, skiddle idle da, deedle idle da, skiddle idle da, deedle idle da, skiddle idle day. So the next time you go to a party, well, you better keep this one in mind. Always be nice to the piper and you'll find he's a gentleman kind. But if trouble breaks out, just keep out of his way, for he carries an awful paltogue. You won't see it coming, but whoosh, when it lands, you'll find it's an Irish kitogue. We invited him down to the party and he brought his bagpipe just by chance. We asked him to sing, but he said, no, but I'll play you a bit of a dance. So he picked up his pipes and he started to play till someone got fooling about. And they cut a big hole in the bag of his pipe. And this was the tune that came out. Rum a deedle idle da, skiddle idle idle da, skiddle idle da, deedle idle da, skiddle idle da, deedle idle da, skiddle idle day.
All right.
All right.
Nice. Well played.
It's like you're here in the room, Phil. Very Irish.
You know
We
what?
need to take it on the road.
What's kind of fun about this too, Shane, is that I know you said someone at LinkedIn was excited to hear that we were maybe doing something like this, because this is not something you're normally going to see on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
LinkedIn is exactly what we're describing as one of those professional places that there's a certain way that people think we're supposed to write and behave and all that. And we've got other friends who are writing. What's that?
we're inhibited in a way because we're not allowed to show this kind of stuff, right? Or we think that
That's
we
the
should.
same thing at the table. That's the same place in
That's
our local
exactly
workplace.
exactly what you said. Yeah.
We feel like there's certain rules, and there are rules, like,
Yeah.
you don't go to a church service and the pastor's preaching and just stand up and decide to belt out that song. Like there are norms, cultural norms,
course.
but I think in general, a lot of us feel inhibited and it shuts us down. And I think music allows us to tap into something that's really pretty cool. So thanks for
Absolutely.
sharing that,
Music
Michael.
is movement, right? Music moves through you.
Totally.
Singing moves through you. Playing an instrument, it moves you literally. So,
But breaking down those barriers allows for a creativity in the workplace that has a value beyond anything that we can put a monetary value on. Because if you're allowing someone to be the best that they can be, or to be who they are, well, wow, where they can go from that. And if as employers or managers or whomever we are in this role, if we're allowing that to happen, wow, we need to sit back and work out how we're going to harness this for the greater good.
And there's a huge opportunity, because I've been a big believer for some time, but I wanted to get the latest sort of research in this. A Gallup study from this year says U.S. worker engagement is at an 11-year low.
yeah.
And that 4.8 million, almost 5 million fewer employees are no longer engaged in their work since they last did this survey. And the LinkedIn, as if on cue, the LinkedIn Workforce Confidence Survey came out yesterday. And 2/3 of U.S. employees say they're working to live as opposed to living for work, underscoring the importance of work-life balance.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of anxiety. A Forbes article, I'm kind of a research geek sometimes. So psychologists widely agree there's mounting evidence that our society is experiencing the psychological impacts of collective trauma with global conflicts and gun violence and mental health of the workforce. Yeah, mental health. There's unprecedented anxiety. And lastly, this was the most interesting one. Gallup's State of the Global Workplace for 2024 said that 49%, almost half of all U.S. and Canadian workers say they're completely stressed out, like almost practically burnt out.
Wow.
But those who find meaning in their work have fewer negative daily stressful feelings.
Yeah.
And finding meaning at work is about singing, playing music, collaborating, bringing your whole self to work. So it's really interesting. I think, we're onto something here. And I hope that as companies and people start coming back into the workplace, they bring their whole selves and they sing and connect and play and do these things we're talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We did a retreat last year for our company, 25 of us or so. And we brought in this lady who runs an organization that's called Guitars and Ukes in the Classroom, ukuleles, uke. And she taught us to play ukulele. But before she even had us pick up a ukulele, she just had us working with rhythms and interacting with one another in this circle. And it was fascinating to watch because most of the people in the circle are non-musical, but she got us to connect and interact with each other in a way that I think set the stage for us to be able to talk about how do we work together as a company by doing something as simple as like beating rhythms on your chest and pulling out a kazoo and making sounds and then pulling out a ukulele and trying something that most of them had never done before. And so I think music gives us a chance to get out of ourselves. And even those who had the musical abilities were able to express themselves and show something that others didn't know that they had. So it was pretty cool.
Amen to that.
There's also a massive thing here, particularly when we talk about hybrid working spaces and this difficulty in creating community. That the thing about a shared repertoire in a musical space, and shared repertoire being that you share these habits of, whatever it is you're doing, that you are habitually doing it together, that you are sharing these highs and these lows, these
bonding. Yeah.
Absolutely. But all of this gives a language and a reference point. Do you remember when we did this workshop where it was, I really struggled with this whole thing of playing the ukulele, and then all of a sudden we managed to achieve this thing or whatever. And that notion of this shared repertoire builds a community between folks that I think we used to take for granted in the workspace because we were all there at the same time doing the same things. And now we need to find new ways of recreating that shared repertoire, these things of communal highs and lows that can happen easier, I think, through a musical space and through having an active and an authentic musical experience where you're involved in and you're actively making music of some sort, regardless of ability level. And that thing of going together through a challenge and achieving something and doing something together. That's where the real power is. And then taking that forward, it is that you have this reference point of this shared thing that has happened that has a huge value, I think.
That's exactly what Phil had said about the drumming and the rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys know the company Song Division. They are a bunch of rock and roll musicians who go around the world to large conferences and companies, and these professional rock and roll guys. Some of them are bands that you would recognize, and others are studio musicians.
Very cool. They're very cool. Yeah.
What they do is they go in, they MC, but they also help companies or events write original songs and come up on stage and perform them. And one of the stories that Andy, the founder, told me about was a hostile takeover that had happened. And so, one company acquired another, and they were going to have this meeting about bringing the companies together. You can imagine that, especially those who got taken over, were not feeling too great about being in that room. So they decided in that particular situation to ask Song Division to lead one of their opening exercises, an opening activity, as opposed to doing it later in the event. And he said it was powerful to watch what happened through music, because those hostilities were let down because they realized, hey, we're all in this, and they were able to express some of the, the angst, the anger, and all those things that came out in the song, but it was directed toward this band. And then all of a sudden we've got this common song that we can sing that says, you know what? That was ugly the way that happened. That was probably only the M&A team that did that. It was some really greedy, ugly people, and we can agree that that's not what we want to be. But now all of a sudden we've got this new identity, and we've got this song that we can sing, and we can put a marker in the ground and say we're moving forward. And so I think music has the ability to kind of do that sort of thing. And Shane, I know you had your own story.
I do. Yeah, 13 years ago, I came out to California. A similar story, funny story. I had the opportunity to help build the communications function for Walmart e-commerce. And it was at a time when the web experience was very different from today, like very nascent. And the team out here was transitioning from being like a science project or an ivory tower into like a legitimate e-commerce business with a new CEO. And you had this company headquarters in San Bruno for the e-commerce business, but then the bigger Walmart headquarters was thousands and thousands of people in Bentonville, Arkansas. And with these new offices, Walmart was trying to bring the hottest, most talented engineers to come and work for the company. But Arkansas and California, and I know you guys are in Ireland, but I'm sure you understand, they're two very different places.
We get it.
It's very different.
That's okay. Between those that we get it.
Exactly. Yes, I know. And what I love about the Walmart culture, and I really enjoyed my time there, is that everybody who works for the company believes in this idea of everyday low cost, keeping costs to the business so low that they can pass those savings on to customers. Millions and millions of customers who save money and live better. That's the tagline: save money and live better. And it's a huge mission, because 90% of everyone in the USA lives 10 miles from a Walmart. So there's a massive mission that I truly believe in, that everyone believes in at the company. So as I worked for the company, I got used to climbing into the middle seat on the airplane, or not staying at the nicest hotel, or not spending a ton on dinners, but everyone lived this mission. The culture of work in Silicon Valley, a little different, right? It's driven by like perks, like free food, complimentary services, go to Google, go to Apple, there's a kegerator in the break room, right? These are things that are a little bit outside of the Walmart culture. But the interesting thing was that the company kind of met folks in the middle, and they provided benefits like snacks and cool benefits to the Silicon Valley folks. But as I was traveling as part of my role working out here in the e-commerce business, I would travel to Bentonville and meet colleagues in the home office. And I sort of sensed kind of a subtle resentment from folks in Arkansas. We get a lot of perks to get food out there. The company, this is 13 years ago, so it's a while ago, but there was a lot of money going into the business, and And maybe there's a little bit of anxiety from folks in Bentonville about the cannibalization of stores, which we know now is not the case because Walmart's everywhere. And you know, you can buy online, you can buy in the store, and it all goes together. This is before this happened. So I was one of the first comms people in the office in this new e-commerce office, and my role was really to foster culture and communication and help create connections between San Bruno and Bentonville and build goodwill. So I came up with a song set to the tone of Friends in Low Places, you know, Friends in Low Places, except it was called Friends in San Bruno because the office was in San Bruno, San Bruno, California. And it was funny. I turned it into like a little MP4 video, and I dropped in images from San Bruno and images from Arkansas and people from the office. And it was a funny tongue-in-cheek, goofy thing. I set it free on the internal channels, and it kind of went viral in an underground way. And even initially, the reception was a little mixed because a couple of senior comms folks came by my cube in San Bruno, and one was like, wow, "That's great. I love this. This is great." And the other one was like, "Well, it looks like Shane needs more work," or something like that. And I was like, "Well," I said, I defended myself as that. First, right. I have plenty of work. I have plenty of work. And by the way, I did this whole thing on the weekend, so you're welcome. But it snowballed. This song sort of snowballed, and I ended up playing the song in the San Bruno e-commerce all hands meeting, and then also I ended up playing it at meetings in Bentonville, and I got invited to perform at the Saturday morning meeting where I actually assembled a whole band. And I was like, I heard there's a Walmart choir, and I found members of the Walmart choir who were like, "This is awesome. We are so in." And 4 members of the Walmart choir are singing this Friends in San Bruno song. And they worked up some basic choreography behind me. And everyone at the meeting, we had the words up behind us. Everyone at the meeting was singing along with the lyrics. And the song, you know, it was funny. The song got a lot of legs, and it got so much play at Walmart, honestly, that I feel like it sort of jumped the shark, because I think people kind of got tired of it. And I was like, you know, we made our statement and we brought folks together. But the best part was that it was a catalyst not only to get a work band together that started to play more. This work band that came together because of this song played dozens of gigs as a result after that in the company and outside the company. But it also helped folks in the home office. Like they saw music collaboration happening from this song, and they started bands. And friends of mine in the home office were like, "Yeah, you know, that was really fun. We're going to do that." And they would set up and play for like employee resource group meetings and different meetings that were happening. And in the end, of course, it helped people at the company realize like we're all in this together. And it really helped them understand, you know, I could play a little bit of the song for you just so you can see how it goes, but it really just helped people understand that there was a connection with folks in the technology business and with folks in the home office. So okay. So
you have set yourself up. We do need to hear your song.
All right. I won't do the whole thing because and Lindsay and Michael, I know it's late your time. So it's hello. All right, here we go. Hello to you all. We're here. I'm here from .com. The city that lies by the bay. Didn't warm up my voice. We are a great crew. And just like you, we serve customers every day. We got a new space. We innovate and have snacks like beef jerky and s'mores. Whatever the weather, we're in this together. The customers are online or in stores. Cause I got friends in San Bruno, and we're working hard to serve the customers. You know who drive our sales. Oh yeah, we got some scale. Great things come from collaboration. Won't you come on down and see our innovation? Cause I got friends in San Bruno. And then there's, thank you very much. The second verse kind of goes into the benefits of stores partnering with website and all the good that came from that. So thank you very much for indulging that. It was a lot of fun. It really made me understand the power of music to have fun and not take yourself too seriously, but also deliver a business message that mattered. So
I think that whole notion of play as adults is really crucial.
Absolutely.
We just, you know yourself, we got to grow up, we got to do all the serious, responsible things, and we miss out on that play, that fun. And I think music gives us that opportunity to just, as you said, jam, fun, play. And I mean play as in play, have fun, not just play.
Exactly. And when people play, they're more comfortable and they're more likely to be able to like negotiate conflict and be transparent and get along a little bit better, because you're not afraid to like play a song or just play around and not take yourself too seriously.
Exactly.
It's really it's a really beneficial thing.
I guess sometimes even in that space when you're playing, you're more open to hearing a message that you may not necessarily be
I
open
like
to
that.
hearing
I think that's also
in another way.
That's really important, I think, especially in work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's interesting. You know, my background is also in the church, and you know, I don't think this is why it happens, but this is a benefit of what happens. Usually you sing at least a couple songs before you hear a message. And I've seen this happen many times for myself and others. Like people walk in and they're tired, they're like dragging, you know, there's not a smile on their face yet. They sing one song and they're starting to perk up. And by a second or third song, like the oxygen that's coming in because they're singing has done something to them. And then they're more ready to hear whatever, you know, message, and they're more alert. And I think it's a powerful thing that happens. At Social Media Marketing World, we had something interesting happen. I've written or co-written a theme song for the event every year, and we're coming up on our 12th year. Year 2, I wrote a song by myself, and it went viral. And It wasn't the good kind of viral. It was the bad kind of viral, the one that you never wish on your worst enemy. Well, maybe on your worst enemy, but you don't want that to happen. So I made a decision that I was going to co-write from then on and bring some other people into it. And when we were getting ready for the 3rd year, one of the co-writers said to me, "Hey, Phil, it'd be kind of cool if we could see if there's any other singers in the community who might want to, you know, form a small choir and sing with us." And I thought, well, that's a novel idea. And so I sent a message out, and lo and behold, like 50 or 60 people responded. And I think 30 of them maybe showed up. And for the next 6 or 7 years before the pandemic, up through the pandemic, we had a choir. And similar thing that we've been talking about happened, where people who were longtime musicians put it on the shelf so they could have a real job. And they said, I never expected to go to a marketing conference and be part of a choir and being able to step up on stage. Or, you know, one year or a couple of years, we pulled an all-star band together and mostly people in the audience. And we had former like professional touring rock and roll musicians who had put it aside because they, you know, that's not an easy lifestyle, but they were able to pull it out again and use it. My favorite story is the guy named Ian who lives over in the UK. I think he's in Newcastle. And he trained as an opera singer like you, Lindsay. And, you know, used to do oratorios and all these things around and taught at the Royal Academy of Music and all these things. But he also had a website business and, you know, a marketing business. And slowly as he got older, that wasn't paying as much. And so he leaned more and more into it. So when this choir happened and then we started doing musicals, he's like, I never expected my musical abilities and my marketing abilities to come together. And it opened up for him something that he did for quite a while, where he started doing these musical intros to podcast interviews. Like he does podcasts, and he would go and create these cool, you know, 9-part videos. You know, how you've seen the people do the Brady Bunch style, where he would sing with himself. He would do all the parts, acapella. And so it was an unlock for him that was really powerful. And it all started because someone suggested, well, let's just see if there's anyone out there. You know, we didn't know if anyone would even raise their hand. Now it became a logistical nightmare to do it in more recent years, because it takes a lot of work to pull a choir together overnight. You know, literally like show up and you don't know the song, and by tomorrow you're going to be performing it. It's like, well, that's not easy to do when there's also a lot of other things happening. But for a season, it was a super powerful thing and people loved it.
But I think also what is really important is the words that you just used there, where it was an unlock for him.
Yeah.
And that whole notion of unlocking. And this is where we have a superpower in the world of music that allows us to unlock.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You talked about your viral in the bad way. I think it's also important to address. I have a good story, a funny story about the holiday party from hell. That I think, because it also reminds us that, yeah, music is not always perfect. It's not always welcome, but it also teaches us about how we can better kind of infuse it and bring it to the workplace. Failure makes us stronger. What we learn about when things go wrong help us think for the future and evolve as professionals and musicians. So I'm going to tell a quick story about the holiday party from hell. I had the amazing opportunity to work at Nextel, which is a wireless company that was started by some titans in business, Morgan O'Brien, a former senator named Mark Warner, and others. It was a wonderful place, quirky culture that encouraged people to try things and have fun. And I started a work band, and my goal is to end on the positive story of how this work band came together. So I'll save that for the end of the conversation. But this is a funny story to share, because we were invited to play a lot of events, including the office holiday party. And this holiday party was on a weekday afternoon in a hotel ballroom in Northern Virginia. And they were just serving coffee. So Lindsay and Michael, sadly, no Irish whiskey available. And that was probably a sign that maybe things weren't going to go well to begin with. Yeah. So it gets better. We're setting up, and someone from HR walks up, and I love this company. I don't mean to, but it was kind of an anomaly that we were even asked this, but the person from HR was like, "Hey, can I see your set list?" And I was like, "Sure." And the set list was mostly like secular stuff, like "Run, Run, Rudolph" by Chuck Berry. But one of the songs on our set list was "Merry Christmas, Baby," the Lou Baxter tune from 1947. You know, "Merry Christmas, baby, sure did treat me nice." Yeah. And she, to her credit, she didn't say we couldn't play the song, but she asked us if we could change it. And I thought that was kind of funny. So I turned it into like, "Merry secular winter themed festive holiday, baby." Merry secular winter themed festive holiday, baby. Yeah. It was, yeah. And she's like, "That's perfect, thank you." Because I mean, everyone sort of had a sense of humor and everything. But I realized at that point that maybe things weren't going to go too swimmingly, because it was this afternoon party just with coffee. And what had also happened, and this is really funny, literally the day before this party was happening, is someone had leaked to the press that Nextel, and this is like 2005, this is a while back, Nextel, the wireline company that I worked for, wireless company, I should say, that I worked for, they were in discussions with Sprint for a potential merger. And as we know, like Phil mentioned, mergers and takeovers and changes mean duplicative teams and redundancies and potential reorganization. So this information is a little unsettling, and it spread like wildfire. And the CEO was due to speak after the band played for the holiday party in the afternoon. So everyone at the company showed up at this holiday party. It was this big ballroom with a big dance floor all around it. And everyone stood, like the dance floor, no one wanted to stand on the dance floor because no one was in a festive mood. No one was going to dance. And it was just a couple thousand people all kind of standing there like arms crossed, like, uh-oh, like what's going on? And we started playing a few songs. And believe me, we probably played 20 minutes, but it was hands down the longest set I've ever played. Every song was like, how long is this? When can we get off? And then, and I see a hand go up in the crowd, and this lady that we know from the office, who was always a fan of our band, and I loved her dearly. She slides out onto the dance floor and starts sort of twirling around like solo on this massive dance floor, surrounded by like throngs of people with their arms crossed. And basically, I'm pretty sure that she was like at all 3 days of Woodstock 1969, and she was probably there. She was probably there when
all you need in your corner, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was good. She's definitely, when Hendrix was playing the Star Spangled Banner on Monday morning, she was at Woodstock seeing that whole thing. But the more she danced around on this dance floor that she had to herself, the more sort of disaffected everyone else looked like. And it was like a scene. It was straight out of the movie Office Space. You could almost see Lumbergh walking by with his coffee cup and saying like, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday. But what I love about my coworkers in this band is that we still brought it. We realized this was kind of a test. I was younger at the time. It was a learning for me about how to power through and not fold tent. We were there to perform, and that's what we did. And we tried our best to keep the energy up in the audience. And the CEO got up and sort of wished everyone a happy holidays, but they were expecting. I mean, he couldn't say anything for legal reasons about anything happening relating to this merger. And the best thing, and I'll always take this wherever I go, whatever band I play with. He thanked everyone for the year, but he really talked more about the band than anything else happening at the company. He was like, "Wasn't Robin great?" Robin was my singer. So really the lesson that I took from it was that it's so important to always be professional, whether you're playing music, whether you're giving a presentation, whether you're powering through a difficult conversation at work. These things all remind us that, we've got to stay power forward, keep the energy level up, and stay positive. Because in the end, even the holiday party from hell taught us how to be better professionals.
That's amazing. Great lessons. Thank you for telling the story.
No problem. Yeah, I don't know if you that's maybe not a little bit worse than the viral gone wrong.
Oh, no, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. So.
Oh yes.
Oh, did it go legal?
You can read about it in my book. How about that? So
I have the book.
All right. I'm gonna buy the book Unforgettable Experience.
I'm gonna go search for that chapter right now.
This wasn't meant to be a plug for the book, but since we're here, that's what it looks like. Look for the elephant with my name, and you'll and there's a chapter in there about singing, and so the story is in that chapter, and that's all I can do in this case. So we've got, I don't know, those of you who watch Saturday Night Live, if you've seen the slow jams that sometimes they do there. But Shane and I are going to do a slow jam about work and kind of a musical response to maybe a kind of typical way a day starts. And I don't know, I think it's going to be fun. We'll see what comes out of it because we've not rehearsed this. This is completely unrehearsed. And who knows? And Shane, I don't know if you're planning to play while you read these things, or if you're just gonna read and let me play. But we'll go with it.
I'll do a little jazz organ in the back, and the whole idea is that I'm going to read a line, and then Phil's going to respond. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Beginnings. You start your day feeling ready to storm the castle. That went better than I expected.
Yeah.
8:15 a.m. Interruption number 1. You get a client email complaining about a problem, and you put out the fire. (8:30 a.m.) Refocus. Feeling good about solving the problem? You get refocused on your number 1 priority for the day. All right, 8:45 a.m. Distraction number 1. 15 minutes into the weekly report, and you get a text message telling you to go see a video about Trump and Kamala having a baby. All right, trying to get that image out of your head at 8:52 a.m. You refocus again, and you return to your project. (9:02 a.m. Refocus. Squirrel. 10 minutes later, you remember this project that you forgot to work on for another client. You start to work on that. 9:07 a.m. interruption number 2. 5 minutes later, your boss sends you a text asking you if you can chat. Of course, you drop everything for her, and she gives you a new top priority that supersedes everything you were working on. 9:28 a.m. refocus number 3. With your new marching orders, you try to get refocused. 9:35 a.m. distraction number 2. 7 minutes later, you wonder if anyone else has posted a silly AI video about Trump, and then you find the videos of Taylor Swift. You promptly go find your Swiftie playlist and have a jam session to I stay out too late. Got nothing on my brain. And you try to shake it off. All right. 9:50 a.m. refocus number 4. You try desperately to get back to your boss's project, but you're not feeling it, so you go back to the project you started the day with. I know what that feels like. All right. Last one, 10 a.m. It's time for coffee break, and you go to the break room and grab some coffee and wonder why you haven't accomplished anything. Nicely done, Phil. We should take this on the road.
That was fun. Definitely didn't know where we would end up, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
So I know we're getting pretty much at the end of the hour here, so we should probably bring this to a close. We could talk about this on, and probably we should do some future conversations.
Yeah.
Totally. No, definitely appreciate you both.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. I know it's super late for you. It's probably
It's been a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Is there well, let's give you guys the last word because you stuck it out with us. What's something that you would love to just kind of summarize this conversation about the importance of music and singing at work? What would you guys love to say?
Go.
I think I'm just really into the whole notion of what we've been talking about breaking down boundaries and barriers, allowing people to be authentic and to access the real and the true thing.
Yeah.
And we can do that when we actively make music together. And the power of actively making music together allows us to be an even more authentic version of ourselves and to take that into the workplace and to allow that creativity and that space to flow is an incredible thing.
Yeah, I think right now in the world, authenticity and connection in particular, I feel is something that's really, really crucial. We need to keep it connected to ourselves and to everybody else.
We're not necessarily saying every company needs to form a choir or a band, but maybe,
Nope.
Maybe, but know why you're doing it. And I think that's what we've been talking about today is what the benefits are of people embracing music and doing it together in different places. And it can look different for every company, every conference. But music has a power of connecting and changing us and even healing us that we didn't really go into in this conversation, but that's something I know Lindsay is super powerful about, and we can talk about that. But yeah, I love it.
Love that.
Shane, I'll let you also, bring a final word that you have.
Oh, and you don't have to just play. Like we used to have people say, hey, can I just play tambourine? I'm not really musical, but it's fun. If I say I'm in the band, I can play tambourine, and people love to listen to it as well. We used to set up our company band at Nextel on the patio at lunch, and it just kind of helped create a different sort of more communal atmosphere that made people more comfortable being around each other and enjoying each other's presence. And nothing like that moment that you have with folks that when you create things that are alive and harmonic and ephemeral but wonderful. So that's what music is. So thanks for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and that's, I think, Phil, we're onto something. We could keep talking music in this way, and we should.
Yeah, we definitely should. And because this is our show and we're the band, we've got to close it out with the band playing a song as people go. So we'll do a final song here. Why don't you give me a G minor?
I had to make it major at the end. So
And for our Irish friends.
Oh.
Great.
Player, but it gets the vibe across. So thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone for listening.
Great
If
to
you
meet
love-
you.
Great. Thanks so much, Shane. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Talk
Nice
to you
meet
soon.
you, Al. Nice to meet you,
Absolutely.
Lindsay and Michael.
All right, we will go ahead and end the stream now.
Awesome.